Welcome to Earth Matters, the podcast where we explore the intersection of geology, disaster preparedness, and sustainable development. We are your hosts. I'm Eller de la Cristi Villanueva,
And I am Jason Andal.
and we are third year students from Geological Engineering Program of Batangas State University, the National Engineering University. And we are thrilled to have you join us for our important discussion.
So for today's episode, we will be focusing on geological hazards and their profound impacts, not just on our environment, but also on our economy and communities. We are going to explore how geological hazards arise, how to lessen their consequences, and why financial planning is essential to disaster management. Because when nature speaks, understanding its language can save lives. So for today's episode, our agenda is to discuss the first, which is the nature of geological hazards and how significant they are to a community as diverse as the Philippines. Next is the risk mitigation strategies, including technology, governance, and community engagement. And lastly, the financial implication of disaster and how proper planning can save lives and money. So today, good afternoon again, everyone. So today we are honored to have with us Ms. Samantha Claire J. Atibo, an accomplished geologist and an advocate for climate action and sustainable development. With over 6 years of professional experience in natural hazard and risk research, Ms. Sam has established herself as a leader in her field, contributing to the project spanning on catastrophe modeling, environmental governance, and sustainability initiatives. Ms. Sam, academic journey began at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where she earned her Bachelor of Science in Geology, graduating as a consistent college scholar and a DOST Merit Scholar. She further pursued a Master of Science in Geology at the same institution, focusing her research on lahar dynamics related to typhoon-induced events at Mayon Volcano. Her expertise encompasses a broad range of skills including data analysis, geographic information system, and catastrophe risk modeling.
And professionally, Miss Sam has worked with esteemed organizations such as the National Reassurance Corporation of the Philippines, the OSTP Box, and the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, where she has made insignificant contributions to risk assessment and environmental sustainability. Her, her work extends to corporate responsibility research based on ESG standards and collaboration with global partners in advancing sustainable practices. Beyond her technical expertise, Miss Sam is a skilled communicator and a trainer, actively sharing her knowledge through seminars, workshops, and international conferences. Her publications and presentations reflect a deep commitment to addressing challenges posed by natural hazards and climate change. And we are thrilled to have you, Miss Sam, with us today to share your insights and experiences. Uh, the audience, please join us to give her a warm welcome.
Thank you.
So
Hello.
now, we're excited to delve into the fascinating career journey of Miss Sam, who has made contributions to the field of geology, uh, from their early days of education to the incredible milestone they achieved. Their story is bound to inspire and inform us all. So let us start from the very beginning. Miss Sam, could you tell us about what initially sparked your interest in geology and how that led you to pursue it academically?
Hi, Eller and Jason. Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this podcast and even for considering me, even though around 6 years of experience pa lang. I actually started my geology career per se as a student in MIGS as by fate lang talaga siya. Like, I started off more interested in mathematics or the financial side. And fortunately, I got into the geology program of UP and I took it. I took the risk na iba yung itetake ko na course and I graduated and started off my profession. And okay naman ngayon. Living happy naman, being in between the financial and the physical side of the industry.
Okay po. So, after completing your education, how did you take the first step into professional world of geology? Like, what were some challenges you faced and how did you overcome those challenges po?
So I actually we started off with the impression na merong pera sa mining noong time namin. Pero when we graduated, actually, I think that was the time that the mining operations also closed. So I think it was also fate that led me not to the said industry but to hazards. Since yun naman yung naging, kumbaga, focus ko in my undergrad years. So I started off with being a service personnel by the DANR in Sorsogon. So the region, the Mines and Geosciences Bureau in Region 5 created personnel uh, to be deployed to the provinces. And yun, fortunately, I served my home. Sorry, was I disconnected? Hello? Hello? Sorry, na-disconnect ba ako?
Nag-loss po ng connection.
Ay, sorry. Yeah, but basically nag-serve muna ako sa hometown ko as a geologist, and then I moved to Manila for more, kumbaga, mas technical na rin na research project in DOST Physics while pursuing my master's.
Thank you po. Those experiences po on your career is quite impressive, Miss Sam, with several key milestones along the way. So, can you share some of the achievements or project that you're most proud of, and how does this shape your perspective on geology or the industry as a whole?
With the project, I guess the biggest impact of the project is, kumbaga, tina-turn over na namin sa mga local units, sa local government units. We had information campaigns so that people would understand what we were what we were researching about. Our research was on modeling lahars and ano yung impacts ng lahars to communities near Mayon Volcano and Pinatubo Volcano. So we did that, and we are glad that people understood naman yung local government units natin. Very perceptive sila sa mga binabanggit namin na ito yung likely areas na malaki yung impacts. And very strong willing sila sa pag-collaborate with future efforts, research efforts of the institute with them.
Thank you po for that for your answer. Again, looking back po sa inyong journey, pupunta po dito sa kung nasan man po kayong career path ngayon, is there anything you wish you had known when you were starting out po?
Eventually, natutuhan ko naman siya. It's, no pun intended, it's take risks. Kasi ang daming hindi ko alam. Pero of course, we start off not knowing a lot naman talaga. So, I just kept on trying. And yung mga dati kong thoughts na hindi ako magaling or whatnot, eventually, matututuhan siya in the future. And so, yeah, no regrets naman. Eventually, you learn on the way. No experience is perfect naman.
Para po risk now or regret later.
Oo naman.
Tapos,
Yes.
medyo ironic nga po gawa ang inyo pong career ay about risk management, risk reduction, tapos yung parang ang inyong lesson is yung take risk, parang inaano nyo pa yung risk na imbes na iwasan natin, diba?
Ironic pa.
Sorry nga po. So, thank you for sharing your story po. It's incredible to hear your passion for geology has translated to such an impactful work. So, we'll now move for our next agenda. So, to begin our next discussion, it is necessary to start with the basics for us to understand the complex interaction between humans and the environment. What are the geological hazards, and why is the Philippines so vulnerable to them?
Good question. We should have a good background din para alam natin kung ano yung pinag-uusapan natin. Geological hazards, two words. First off, yung geological, meaning earth-related. And then yung hazards, sila yung mga nagdi-disrupt or mga processes within the surface of the earth na nagdi-disrupt ng way of lives or yung natural state ng isang area, ng isang environment. So, like landslides, minumove nila yung soil. So, yung mga bahay na nasa on top of those areas, magiging hindi na pwedeng tirhan or mga earthquakes, floods. So, natitigil yung mga operations ng ating mga, say, commercial or kung ano man na kailangang operations on that day because of the hazards. And those things, if I may add lang, what I research about this risk, and sinabi mong why is the Philippines vulnerable, kumbaga, yung tatlong factors yung nag-add up to risk before masabi mong risky yung isang area. First is yung hazards, second ay yung exposure. So, Philippines is just very lucky na na-hit natin yung jackpot na exposed tayo to the Pacific Ring of Fire, tayo, and then the typhoon belt of the Pacific. So, yung exposure natin, masyadong maswerte, kumbaga, na dinadaanan tayo ng about 20 typhoons every year. Maraming earthquakes na nare-record. So, yan, that's exposure. And third, vulnerable. I think the Philippines is quite vulnerable. Tama ba? Sorry. Just to continue, the Philippines is vulnerable kasi yung state natin as a country, marami pa rin hindi nakakaalam kung paano mag-build against hazards. Kahit na alam nating dinadaanan tayo ng bagyo, dinadaanan tayo or nagkakaroon ng lindol sa atin. Vulnerable pa rin yung mga kumbaga buildings natin kasi people still don't know how to mitigate, how to address the or say parang hindi pa nakaka-adapt masyado. Kumbaga little by little pa lang na-apply pa lang natin.
So, yun nga po. That makes sense nga naman po. Kaya nga naman po napaka-vulnerable ng Philippines. Nasa Pacific Ring of Fire, typhoon belt. So, yun nga po, jackpot. Tutuusin.
Yes.
So, here's my question po. Can you, share a few examples po na mga disasters that have a long-lasting impact on our communities po?
Siguro one would be malalaking impact sa atin ng earthquakes sa Philippines. And medyo historical, technical to na fact na around 1968, nagkaroon ng earthquake sa Kasiguran, Aurora. That's nasa eastern part ng Philippines or nasa northeast part ng Philippines. And yung magnitude 7.3, malakas siya, as we all know. Pero nag-translate siya to varying intensities na iba-iba yung reactions ng iba-ibang lugar. And there was this tower in Binondo, Manila. Sipin nyo na lang kung gaano kalayo from Aurora na nag-collapse siya because of that said earthquake. So from there, dahil maraming namatay, maraming na-injure sa collapse ng tinatawag na Ruby Tower, apartment siya. Maraming nabawian ng buhay. From there, quick response yung ating government to create the National Building Code of the Philippines. So, from that very hazard, nagkaroon agad tayo ng recovery na means or na mitigation means para the next time, hindi na ganun ka-vulnerable yung mga buildings natin. Magiging constructed sila well na maganda yung frameworks nila.
So, yun nga. Ano nga po na ang daming hindi po natin in-expect na yung earthquake po nung mula sa Aurora. Ganun po pala talaga magiging, diba?
Yes. Malaki talaga yung impacts niya kahit malayo.
Diba?
Ma'am, may question po about din sa amin. Yung paggalaw, di ba po yung paggalaw nung sa may Aurora is parang yung effect niya abot hanggang Binondo. May
Yes.
naapektuhan siya. Paano, meron pong yung parang fault po na abot na ganun kalayo? Or talagang parang domino effect lang po na nakarating siya sa Binondo?
Right. So, since yung kumbaga yung earthquakes natin, hindi naman siya like within Aurora province lang. Like, titigil siya sa boundary ng Aurora. Tapos pag Nueva Ecija, wala na ganun. Yung waves natin, as long as kayang mag-expand, matatamaan talaga siya. And siguro yung pinaka naging impact sa area ng Binondo ay dahil naabot siya ng shock waves at vulnerable din. Or kumbaga, yung building mismo mahina sa said earthquake. So sa ngayon siguro yung iniisip natin mas malakas na yung mga building, pero way back then wala pang building code, mas prone or mas maaapektahan talaga sila.
Thank you po. So now that we laid the groundwork, let's talk about what we can do to reduce the risk. One of the most foundational and systematic approaches is geological mapping and planning. So, bakit po napakamahalaga or napaka-importante nitong geological mapping and planning po when it comes to reducing the risk?
Ayun, so yung nabanggit ko kanina na meron tayong hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. Of course, kapag gumagawa ka ng models, yung mga models na yun, hindi siya totoo until ma-verify mo siya on the ground. So, yung kumbaga yung field work or yung geological mapping, geohazard mapping, yun yung nagiging confirmation natin na totoo nga, nagkaroon ng impact dito or likely na masisira siya dahil sa ating hazards. So, pinaka-highlight ng fieldworks or ng mapping ay yung sa vulnerability part. Kino-confirm mo na yung building ba ay mukhang malakas, mukha siyang mahina. So yun, right now, ang magandang magandang means of verification ay mapping aside sa modeling. Kasi kumbaga yung modeling, pinapalawak niya lang na mas mabilis, pinapalawak niya lang yung pag-field work mo para mas mabilis nakaka-produce ng data.
So, hazards map, di ba naman po, is not restricted on research. It is for the communities and local government to use them to make decisions about where to build facilities such as home, schools, and even evacuation routes. Yung po mga agencies na like PBOX and DNR, kumbaga sila po yung key players in creating and updating those resources. So, syempre po, itong geological mapping and planning is really more like uses technology. Yung po bang technology natin ngayon or like the technology alone is enough in monitoring these hazards po? Like, what are your takes on the Philippines' current capabilities with regards to this situation po?
So ngayon, we are on the improving side. Of course, palaging may room for improvement as a country kasi hindi naman perfect yung model natin or rather yung state natin in addressing disasters as of now. If you are aware of the website Hazard Hunter PH, isa siyang website na collaborative efforts ng DENR, NAMRIA, ng DOST PBOX and DOST Pag-asa. Kinumbay nila lahat ng information nila on hazards para maging accessible sa mga tao. So, a digital person like me or you, parang Google Maps siya na kapag nag-search ka ng say, if you live in a building in Metro Manila, say, if you've been to Shangri-La, alam mo kung bahain ba siya, alam mo kung matatamaan ba siya ng earthquake. So, malaking tulong yung accessible sa mga tao yung information about hazards. But of course, syempre, hindi naman lahat may cellphone, hindi naman lahat may computer. Yung LGUs, yung ating kumbaga point person for that matter. Yeah. Sila yung nakakaalam ng hazards para ma-translate to people. Nakita ko rin with my travel with in other countries na naggaganon din sila. Na meron silang NDR-NC alerts din na in other countries. Syempre, iba yung lengguwahe, di ko maintindihan na most probably may rainfall amount, red rainfall warning dito. So, nakakapag-act in motion yung mga citizens natin. Mas madaling makapag-evacuate and all. Ayun. But of course, it still has some lacking may room for improvement pa, but it's a huge accomplishment over the years with the digitalization.
Thank you po. That really emphasized siguro the need for better funding po and implementation.
Yes.
But when it comes naman po sa community preparedness, nakikita po kasi kami ng mga campaigns na nagbibigay ng kumbaga po awareness sa mga tao about nga po, like for example, may mga parating na bagyo, mga ganyan. Paano po naka-empower sa community yung mga ganun po para maging mas proactive po yung ating community pagdating sa community preparedness?
Actually, malaking aspeto yan na yung LGUs natin yung pinaka-influential sa aspect na to sa pag-respond sa disasters. Kasi sila yung nakakaalam ng lugar, for one, and sila din yung kumbaga connection ng national agencies with the locals. Kasi hindi naman kaya ng national agency na as in every single time na may disaster, sasabihin nila yung mga locals. Yung LGUs yung pinakamalaking natin. May power, kumbaga. And yung roles nila, na-highlight yun kapag na-capacitate or nabibigyan sila ng, kumbaga, capacity para matutuhan from the scientists themselves kung ano yung disasters, ano yung hazards, para sila makakapag-create ng early warning systems, saan sila magkakaroon ng building zones. So, from my experience sa previous agencies, yung ating mga agencies, nagkakaroon sila ng information education campaigns. So, meron tayong mga scientists, yung physical scientists, and collaborating with social scientists naman para combined effort sila na tinatransform yung mga scientific data para mapaalam sa mga LGUs natin, ay ito yung hazard map. Ano yung areas sa lugar ninyo na likely matatamaan ng baha, ng lahars, ng earthquakes? Ano yung dapat iwasan ng pag-improve or ng development natin? Kasi ayaw naman nating malagay yung mga kabahayan or mga simbahan or yung ating mga commercial establishments dun sa mga areas na alam natin, dun talaga dadaan yung mga hazards natin. So, yung information campaigns na yun, malaking tulong para sa mga LGUs para alam nila kung ano yung nangyayari. And right now, tingin ko, coming from my personal experience lang sa Bicol region, na kapag may mga bagyo, meron na silang mga response or kumbaga preparedness teams. Instead of responding to these hazards, may preparedness na. And lumalawak na rin yun. Right now, nakikita ko yung mga LGUs natin, even Northern Luzon, Metro Manila, na naka-ready na yung mga relief packs, naka-ready na yung mga rescue teams. Nakita ko rin yung may mga trainings for disaster risk reduction or responders natin na may training sila sa rescue ng mga people gamit yung bangka, ganun. So, of course, meron talagang dapat collaboration between those who know about the hazards and those who will be likely affected by those hazards. Kasi for one, yung pinaka purpose lang naman ng ating mga agencies talaga ay para makatulong sa ating mga kababayan. Yes, parang politiko na ako. Pero, yeah, ayun, that's the gist of it.
Parang sobrang halaga po talaga ng ng like being prepared. Parang kaysa dati, parang nakita po natin paano mag-evolve. Dati parang pag po may disaster, relief goods lang, bigay lang. Ngayon po parang
Totoo.
ready na before pa lang mag-strap, dapat ready na, parang pinaprevent natin yung more damage na magagawa nila. Which
That's
is
right.
good thing po sa pag-evolve ng ating community when it comes to risk management and reduction po.
That's right. If I could cite one example lang, siguro very recent lang to na baka na-feel nyo rin. Pero during Karina this year, Typhoon Karina or Tropical Storm Karina, hindi siya naglandfall sa atin pero ang laki ng naging impacts dahil sa habagat. So, yung understanding ng ating hydrometeorological hazards or yung typhoons, windstorms, malaki yung impact sa nangyari sa atin. And yung disaster risk reduction, it doesn't stop with response, as you said. Yung comparison, for example, during Karina would be other areas in Metro Manila versus yung BGC, if narinig ninyo. Kasi yung structure, yung pagkaka-develop ng BGC, merong tangke sa ibaba ng city mismo na yun yung nagsistore ng baha. So, syempre, iniisip natin kapag nagbabaha, the soil can only absorb so much. Tataas talaga, oo. Magra-run off talaga siya, that causes the flooding. And yung structure na yun, na tangke na yun, nakatulong siya para hindi bumaha sa BGC, which is a very good example of how we could mitigate or how we could prevent or, prevent yung impacts ng ating hazards with the communities.
Okay, let's shift gears na po. Ayun nga, let's talk about the financial side naman. Kasi hindi naman po basta-basta din makakapag-implement din tayo ng hindi tayo makakapag-prepare kung wala po tayong pera nga naman po, di ba?
That's right.
Kasi may massive economic repercussions po yan. So, ito po yung tanong ko po. What are the typical financial impacts of geological hazards po?
Typically, it would lead to, of course, meron tayong physical aspects and then meron din tayong kumbaga, yung paano na-disrupt yung lives ng people. So, first off, sa physical aspects, yun yung nakikita natin, obvious na nangyayari. Let's say, since you're from Batangas, noong Taal eruption, I think nagkaroon ng lahars, nagkaroon ng ashfall. Kumbaga sa mga bahay-bahay, sa mga simbahan, natabunan ng mga buhangin, ng ash sa bubong. So, yun yung damage sa properties. Kasi, there are times na dahil sobrang lakas ng impact, hindi na pwedeng tirhan yun. So, kumbaga, damaged na yung ating properties. So, that's a loss for us. Kapag hindi na pwedeng tumira, maghahanap ka na naman ng other place. So, additional yun na gastos for a family. And with interruptions with the lives of people, say, meron kang commercial business, meron kang hotel, ganun. Kapag nagkaroon ng earthquake, kapag nasira or nagkaroon ng cracks yung hotel mo, yung mga tao, most likely ayaw or even government would say, na bawal nang tumira dyan kasi meron ng structural damage. So, yung business mo, malaki din yung magiging impact, hindi na rin siya magiging running in the long run until you have it repaired. Eh syempre malaki din yung gastos for repairing itself. So kumbaga nag-add up yung losses niya or yun yung nagiging kumbaga impact financially for the people. And of course, hindi naman dapat iniiwan yung mga tao ng government. So at the same time, sinasubsidize din ng government supposedly with financial aids, um, even yung mga in-kind goods para sa ating mga farmers, even yung parang para makabangon, kumbaga, makapag-build back at makapag-continue ng kanilang operations. Yeah.
Po, speechless na naman po.
Para siguro akala natin parang lang yung impacts ng physical hazards ay lang talaga within kumbaga saan lang dumating or saan nakarating sa yung binaha. Pero malaki yung impact niya in terms of people, how they live their lives. Kasi siguro just to provide an example, yung eruptions sa Taal, yung mga before pa na eruptions, yung mga municipalities ngayon, bumalaw na yan eh. Kung alam nyo, yung mga municipalities ng Tanawan, Taal, Lipa, gumalaw na yan. Kasi nag-a-adjust nga siya with the hazards. Kasi kung saan tatama, ayaw natin dun. So, financially or socially, malaki yung aspect ng hazards at namamold yung Philippines, most especially Philippines right now. Nakikita natin kung ano yung effects. Ayun.
So, since ang hirap na po i-process na, sobrang dami po talaga eh.
Yeah.
Ito na lang po. To simplify it, I have one question na lang. Paano po ang role ng magiging role po ng sakali po financial planning to help reduce po yung ganyan pong hindi po makokontrol na impacts?
Well, of course, kumbaga sa government side, siguro i-mention ko lang from government and from private side since medyo iba din sila ng reactions. Sa government side, syempre, yung pag-subsidize or pag-develop na maging sustainable, na maging, kumbaga, yung development ng cities natin, ini-incentivize na hindi ipapalalain yung hazards. So, alam naman natin ngayon, nafe-feel na natin yung impacts ng climate change and it's not reversible at this point. Kumbaga sa government side, yung pinaka-financial or social planning natin, most focused sa development na for renewable resources, sana yung mga systems natin or yung mga cities natin, mas nag-incentivize or mas nag-encourage ng mga tao na wag gumamit ng kotse. Kasi yun yung kumbaga nakakabawas sa carbon emissions natin. And yung for the private corporations naman, since hindi rin naman natin pwedeng ipatigil sila na tumigil ng productions, kumbaga i-reduce lang yung mga non-renewable materials like plastics, yung mga mahirap ma-decompose. And I think ngayon nagkakaroon na rin ng system sa private mga companies, yung mga retail companies na pag tina-trade in mo yung mga dati mong gamit, nagkakaroon ka ng discount. So it helps na maging sustainable tayo instead na itatapon lang sa mga landfill na mas nakakadagdag lang sa kabasurahan. Ganun. But yeah, siguro in terms of financials, building back better talaga. From recoveries natin, aside from developing na renewable, yung at a local scale, dapat alam natin kung saan yung likely hazards or yung mga exposed na areas. And sana yung mga barangays natin, alam nila kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng saan yung hazardous, ano yung kumbaga vulnerable na buildings, and makapag-plan out sila na better ang response and prevention natin from disasters.
Specific din po sa next question. So, looking at this globally naman po, how do other countries and industries address the financial risk tied to geology-related hazards po? Meron po bang mga lessons na pwede po nating ma-apply here po sa Philippines?
Siguro yun, yung sa first kasi global din siya. Yung UN mismo yung nagbibigay ng framework. Yung UN Disaster Risk Reduction na yung 2004 tsunami sa Sri Lanka. Yun, na-form siya yung philosophy na yun na yung government, siya dapat yung magbibigay sa mga vulnerable sectors ng tulong para hindi na maulit yung mga disasters to those vulnerable sectors. And yung, kumbaga, I guess I could cite yung ating insurance industry at this point kasi dun din ako nag-work. And basically, what I do in the insurance industry is yung kinakalculate namin yung gaano ba ka-risky yung buildings as compared to hazards. So, yung ginagawa ng insurance industry, yung mga tao na may sariling building, may sariling kotse, pinapa-insure sila with insurance companies para kahit konti lang yung babayaran nila, in case na masira dahil sa hazards, meron silang, kumbaga, may makiklaim silang amount para makapag-build back sila. So, kumbaga, yung risk na yun na magkaroon ka ng large loss or magkaroon ka ng malaking gastusin, kumbaga, nare-reduce, nababawasan by the insurance industry. And right now, yung sector na yun, yung insurance sector, nag-create sila ngayon ng Philippine Catastrophe Insurance Facility. Yung tawag dito ay PCIF. And para siyang private sector naman na na response, like kung yung government with development, si PCIF naman ay kumbaga yung mga insurance companies, nilalagay nila in one pool yung kanilang mga in-insure na mga buildings, mga kotse, na kapag may na-strike doon, may natamaan ng hazard doon, yung mga other insurance companies ready to help them, yung mga affected na mga insured nila na risks. So, parang instead of being alone in this instead of being alone ng isang insurance company, tulong-tulong sila para hindi masyadong malaki yung impact ng hazards to you in insurance companies lang. So, it gives the benefit na yung risk mo nasi-spread out, hindi yung parang sobrang bigat na sa insurance company na, hala, magbabayad na naman akong malaki kasi natamaan si Metro Manila ng Carina, ganun. So, yun. Little by little, nag-a-adapt tayo sa, sa mga hazards natin, whether it be financial or whether it be yung development ng with the aid of the government. And of course, it all boils down to data talaga. It should be very much accessible to people and the local units para mas makapag-create ng better decisions. And yung philosophy ng UN, build back better.
Thank you po sa super overload na information. So, before we wrap up, ma'am, this episode, this session, siguro po magpalaitin muna tayo ng mood by to fast talk po. Kumbaga, quick round of question. Magtatanong po kami sa inyo. Ako, magtatanong po ako sa inyo ng question and yung first thing that comes to mind, yun po yung sasagot niya. So, ready ka na po?
Gaji.
Thanks. First question po. Okay. Let's start po now. First question, risk modeling or field work?
Ang ano, dapat fast pala to. Both eh. Pero, sige, as of now, risk modeling kasi yun yung ginagawa ko.
So, geothermal energy or fossil fuels?
Geothermal.
Earthquakes or volcanic eruptions?
Parang ayaw ko naman pumili. Volcanic eruptions.
Volcanic eruptions. Kasi po, kalahar. Ganun.
Oo.
Mitigation or prevention?
Mitigation. Mas probable siya.
Mineral exploration or environmental impact?
At as a hazards person, environmental impact tayo.
So, fresh pa. Insurance or investment?
Insurance ka muna bago mag-invest.
Insurance. Tama. Quick calculation or detailed analysis?
It really depends. But as a person, mas ma-detailed analysis ako.
Mountains or oceans?
Shucks. Ang hirap as a fieldwork person. Oceans.
Oceans. Landslide or floods?
Floods. Mas kaya mong mag-evacuate.
Early warning systems or recovery plans?
Build back better. Recovery plans.
Risk maps or statistical reports?
I'm a visual person. Risk maps.
Collaboration or independent research?
Collaboration, of course.
Ma'am. Your favorite geological tool?
Favorite geological tool? Ano ba? Like ArcGIS? QGIS? Very handy.
Best advice for hazard managers?
For hazard managers, ano ba pwede? Be open-minded. Be open-minded.
Sa perspective niyo po, what is the future of geology when it comes to finance?
To finance, oh my gosh. Actually, right now, it's a very new sector, I think. Pero, yeah, it's malaki yung potential. Yeah, malaki yung potential ng geology.
Most dangerous geological hazard?
Most dangerous by experience or I guess earthquakes. Malaking impacts to, especially right now, Metro Manila, the big one. Yep.
Last po, ender natin is, what is the one thing people misunderstand about risk?
One thing people must understand about risks. Kapag, when you say that a place is risky, ayaw mo nang mag-invest at all. There are times that you should also take the risk. But at the same time, you know how to adjust to it.
Doon po nagtatapos ang ating pasto.
Parang ano lang.
Pati nga naman po sa pasto, may mga insights po talaga kami makukuha.
Oo naman. Kahit ako, di ko rin sure kung ano yung sasagutin ko. Pero yeah, spur of the moment, di ba?
Okay. So, let's proceed to our favorite part po as a group. Your expert advice. What's one tip of advice po na you can give us that you can give us to us students or even professionals po na interested po sa geology or geological engineering?
Di rin ako expert eh. Paano ba yun? Pero, take the risk. Kasi yun din naman yung mantra ko ever since I started geology. Like, kung hindi ka sure, okay lang. Adjust to it. Kasi walang mangyayari kung nasa comfort zone ka lang.
Risk. Take risk, pero calculated.
Oo.
Ayun po, thank you po, Miss Sam. So meron po kami mga key takeaways na nakuha sa ating pong session na ito. The first one is, syempre, relevance of studying natural hazards. So, given the Philippines' unique geography, being located along the Pacific Ring of Fire and prone to typhoons, dahil lang pagiging pasok nito sa typhoon belt, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, studying natural hazards is not just necessarily is just necessary, it's very crucial. Understanding these hazards allow for a more proactive measures that save lives and reduce damages.
And yung ano naman po, yung 1968 kasiguran earthquake, yung significant event po na yon sa Earth's history. Na yung nabanggit nyo po, may magnitude na 7.3. And then may intensity pa po na umawal pa po hanggang sa Maynila po. Yung disaster po na yun na grabe. And nag-stick sa isip ko na nag-lead po yun ng widespread devastation and loss. Grabe po yun sa turning point. Grabe po yun as turning point sa country natin. Na-shape na po, ayun nga po, nabanggit ko po. Na-shape po yung Philippine National Building po. It emphasizes na po na yung safer construction standards and even disaster resilience infrastructure po.
Napakahalaga po ng mga parang disasters dahil parang meron din po kaming napag-aralan na dun sa about mining law. Kung alam niyo po yung parang yung Mark Copper, parang yung dahil din sa risk nagkakaroon ng mga ganong codes na which is very helpful in the long run.
Yes, that's right.
Lang po pag-aaral. Ganda talaga pag-aralan ng geology po. Yeah. Hazard, another take.
Pero masakit sa ulo, no? Madaming info in 1 hour.
So, third key takeaways naman po namin dito sa ating session is hazard mapping sa fieldwork. Effective hazard mapping is a cornerstone of disaster preparedness. So, technology like Hazard Hunter, ito po yung na-develop ng Philippine Agency para mag-provide ng initial assessment, fieldwork remains an assessment. So, on the ground study, it helps us verify and fine-tune maps, ensuring more accurate identification of hazard-prone areas.
Was another key takeaways naman po yung challenges in research and disaster preparedness. One of the primary hurdles po na kailangan po sa pag-a-advance ng natural hazard studies is funding. Research and implementation, nagre-require po talaga sila ng napaka-significant na financial resources. Tapos, ayun nga po, dito sa Pilipinas, maraming limitations po, napakabagal ng progress.
Controversial. Kasunod po naming takeaways ay the role of LGUs, ng ating local government units. Sila yung, kumbaga po, naging instrument para, kumbaga sila yung nagbe-bridge po para magkaroon tayo ng community preparedness from the government up to sa mga community. Nandun po yung LGU para pumagitna at mag-relay ng mga ways para maging prepared ng ating community. So they bridge the gap nga po in between the government and the communities, ensuring disaster risk reduction programs and their engagement foster community and trust and participation.
And lastly po, the need for financial sustainability. Disaster preparedness requires not just immediate funding but also long-term financial planning po. Governments must ensure that the disaster risk reduction programs are sustainable. Yung mga resources po na dapat consistent po na na-allocate for both prevention and response efforts. Ayun. And po lahat ng key takeaways.
Parang mas magaling pa kayo nag-summarize kasi sa akin. Mas magaling pa kayo nagsalita kasi sa akin eh.
Hindi po, mas po kayo. Mas may malaman ang inyong sinasabi.
Oo po, sa inyo din naman po nanggaling lahat po ng na-summarize po namin.
Buti nakarating.
So, yun po. Thanks for tuning in dito sa Earth Matters. We hope you enjoy for today's episode and found it very insightful. Kasi kami, very insightful having Miss Sam po sa ating interview na to. So, if you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review and share it with your friends. So, we'd love to hear from you. Connect us on social media accounts and drop us a message at our GSUT accounts.
And until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and take care. Thank you for listening.
Woo! Thank you po, ma'am.
Thank you po.
Thank you.